What is going on, guys? For today's video, I will show you the best Archmage Vortex of Projection Hierophant build in PoE of Exile 3.26. This is a frost version, known as the transformed Windripper Blast. This is not your usual chill spell setup. With no cooldown and scaling from the cast speed, we will turn into a rapid fire clearing machine. If you're mapping or farming shrines, then this build brings that high-paced, screen clearing action that just feels amazing. If you're looking for this build's path of building, then click my link in the description. And before we continue, thanks to U4GM. They are a pro website that provides PoE1 boosting, items and even currency with a cheap price and fast delivery. They have over 17,000 positive comments, and this website is really worth a try. So make sure to use my discount code CADE for extra 6% off. This version of the Archmage Vortex build focuses around the transfigured Frost Blast, specifically the Windripper Blast variant. By removing the cooldown and scaling the skill with a cast speed, this setup will turn you into a spell machine that melts screens with ease. Normal and magic mobs barely will stand a chance, and the real power comes when you stack this with the Vortex of Projection for elite and boss encounters. Vortex explodes from the Frostbolt projectiles instead of being cast on your character, which massively increases your area coverage and letting you safely control the large packs at range. I tested Kitava's Thirst as a trigger, but despite its automatic potential, it lacked defenses and had an awkward projectile behavior that often made it unbearable. Instead, I chose a more consistent and flexible approach that puts the control in your hands. The synergy with the shrine effects is one of the highlights of the build, as once you grab the Echo of Acceleration shrines, your character starts moving and casting so fast that it feels more like playing a flicker shock with spells. This build is highly responsive, mobile, and extremely fun to play in a fast-paced environment. Bossing is also solid too. Either way, if you're pushing through Delirium, fighting tanky rares, or facing multiple bosses, then overlapping damage over time effects and rapid projectile coverage make sure that nothing stays alive for long. So let's take a look at the leveling, and early on, this build is smooth if you know how to pace the transition. While leveling, you want to use something simple like the Freezing Pulse, or a combo of the Orb of the Storms with a Frost Bomb to help apply exposure and clear. And once you gain access to the Frostbolt, you can begin scaling the main mechanic of the build. Around this point, you can begin focusing on cast speed, mana regeneration, and the spell damage on gear. These stats will significantly improve your gameplay feel as you push through the acts. It's important to start investing into the mana nodes early on, since this build is heavily mana dependent. Using the Clarity Aura during the leveling is also a solid way to stabilize your mana regeneration before you even get the rest of your setup online. And then, as you reach the mid-game, begin preparing your defenses by moving towards spell suppression and evasion scaling. And once you can run the Grace along with the Arctic Armor, you will notice your survivability improve dramatically. Careful planning is a smart early solution to dexterity problem. If you allow to meet Grace and gear stat requirements without needing to craft or trade for dex heavy rares, then later on your rings and gear will provide enough dexterity that you can remove the Javel and reclaim those passive points. Then Azuris Fibly is an excellent early upgrade for the Amulet slot, and is best in slot later on. You can pair it with a crafted wand that scales mana and cast speed, and you'll start to feel the build come to life. If you plan to farm shrines, then start shaping your Atlas tree early to pick up the shrine synergy nodes. This will multiply your clear speed, and to be honest, it's just super fun. Next up, let's go over Ascendancy. As a Hierophant, your Ascendancy choices will directly fuel the power behind the build. First, Conviction of Power provides a stable source of power and endurance charges by offering both critical strike scaling and defensive resilience. Next, Divine Guidance will give you a massive mana boost and redirect a portion of the incoming damage to your mana pool, which is also very critical for both survivability and the Archmage scaling. Then Sanctuary of Tough offers a reduced mana cost and increased recovery, letting you spam spells while maintaining control. And finally, Arcane Blessing will give you permanent Arcane Surge, which adds a significant chunk of spell damage and more mana regeneration to keep the engine running. The synergy between these four notables will create a build that thrives on mana as both as a resource and defensive layer. Then next we got our skill tree, and it has been optimized to address early dexterity challenges, scale spell damage and improve survivability through suppression and recovery. I started by using careful planning to convert intelligence into dexterity, which allowed me to run grace without needing the awkward ring swaps. With this javel in place, you're able to drop precision and free up points previously spent on the practical application. Those free points now instead can be allocated towards spell suppression, like reflexes and other minor suppression clusters, which significantly improve our overall defenses. I also took devotion and other helpful minor nodes as I progressed to level 90, which gave me enough flexibility to fully round out the tree. The core remains centered around the mana scaling and critical strike chance, both of which are essential to maintaining uptime and a burst. Mana regeneration is high enough that I rarely run into issues, though I still include some reduced mana cost of skills to smooth out the heavy spam situation. Critical strike chance is capped at 100% with the right setup, especially with increased critical strike support. Then cooldown recovery is converted with 14% from belt, though you can bypass this early if you use the Awaken cast on crit gem. And lastly, accuracy is solved by using the hits can be evaded mod, which ensures that we always connect. Next up we have our skill gems. The main link is centered around the Cyclone, which serves as a trigger for our cast on critical strike combo. Vortex of Rejection is the core damage spell, and it's linked with increased critical strikes, increased critical damage and the Archmage to scale both crit and the mana base power. The synergy between these gems make clearing smooth and bossing surprisingly effective. For Frostbolt, we run it inside the Kitava's Thirst with greater multiple projectiles, Archmage and Inspiration. This setup enables the projectile to serve as the anchor of the Vortex explosions, giving us a massive coverage and a damage layering. Utility skills like the Arcane Cloak are linked with the automation, increased duration and enhance to provide burst damage and additional defenses. We also use Sigil of the Power, linked with either way increased aerial coverage or the Wrath depending on the needs, and even supported by the Eternal Blessing to fit into the Aura setup. Then Assassin's Mark is auto-applied with the Mark on hit, and the Flame Dash will handle the movement. For Auras, Prism Guardian will support the Zealotry, Determination and the Vaal Discipline by giving us massive offense, armor and even recovery. Next up we have gear. Your gear setup is built to support a hybrid cold damage over time and cast speed crit build. You're running dual profane wands, and one which is custom crafted to stack mana regeneration and the spell damage. This lets you maintain uptime in boss fights while also dishing out heavy damage. The centerpiece is Aziris Fibly. It's hard to beat in terms of mana sustain, and with a Mind Drinker Anoint, it adds quality of life through the mana on kill and regen. Your chest is necrotic armor, while your boots and gloves will focus on evasion, spell suppression and mobility. The Algar Mortis gloves in particular are a huge damage boost whenever enemies are in the chilling ground, which makes them perfect for your Vortex setup. Rare rings will provide mana, chaos res, life and resistances. Then Stygian Vice belt will further support this with a solid roll and room for a powerful Hypnotic Eye Javel. Then the flask setup includes Divine Life, mana, jade, quartz and silver, giving you sustain, dodge, pacing and speed. And then for our Javels, they're top tier, including the Unnatural Instinct, Militant Fate and the Watcher's Eye and even others. Together, they will improve our stacking, cast speed, mana efficiency and the layering defenses. Next up we have our Mercenaries. I tested a bunch of different versions and I found two with potential. One focused on defense by using the Blasphemy Aura and the Amplitude to reduce damage taken, along with granting elemental immunity through the Sign of the Sin Eater. Then the other will lean towards the offense with Summon Holy Relic and a Smite to provide additional damage and regeneration. And then for gear, Dying Breath is a solid weapon choice, while Leer Cast will give a helpful damage buff from the helmet slot. Then Zandentu's Cassock is also a good body armor option. Use gloves with the Unnerve implicit, and for boots, go with the Windscream for the extra curse, or boots with a stabbed ground for survivability. And then finally, belts like the Camus Binding or the Parashock Clasp will work well. And for rings, the Kikazaru and the Time Claps are great picks. And then finish it off with a Shaper Seed as your amulet. Next up, let's go over the gameplay. This build feels fast, fluid and incredibly satisfying. You'll be constantly spinning with the Cyclone, triggering vortexes from your Frost Bolt, and melting enemies before they can even reach you. Movement is smooth thanks to the high evasion and spell suppression, and the mana sustain is strong enough to support aggressive play. When the shrine effects are active, the gameplay will kick things into overdrive. With the Echo and Acceleration shrines, you will be tearing through the packs with a speed that feels borderline broken. In boss fights, the layering from the Vortex explosions combined with the dot from chilling will make even the tanky enemies go down fast. Overall, this build rewards smart positioning, pre-firing frostbolts into choke points or packs, and knowing when to drop the sigil power or even trigger the arcane cloak. It's reactive but powerful, and once you get the rhythm, it becomes one of the most fun mapping builds available in the game. And now, last but not least, let me tell you a few tips and tricks to keep in mind. Always start with a careful planning if your gear does not provide enough dexterity early on. Mana sustain is everything in this build, so keep your regeneration high and invest in it as early as possible. Also, don't neglect cooldown recovery. Getting at least 14% from your belt ensures everything will flow correctly. Then, when engaging bosses, drop the Sigil of Power before you engage in the Cyclone Arcane Cloak for that extra burst and defenses. Always shoot Frostbolts into packs before diving in with the Cyclone, because this will allow the Vortex to explode and clear entire screens instantly. And finally, I personally enjoy Mercenaries, but some players think that they're more pain than gain. So if you really don't want to, you can just leave the Mercenaries for now and wait for PoE 3.26 to improve them. So let me know what you think about this build in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, then you definitely don't want to miss my previous top 10 best builds video, where I showed even more powerful builds. So click the screen now and I'll see you in the next one.